Hi everyone! You might be wondering why I'm staring at a plate of Oreo cookies, and that's because I want to teach you today about the cookie method. And this was a method that helped me write, and the metaphor kind of might help make it stick. So, the method is that the top of the cookie introduces the quote, the middle of the cream filling is like the quote itself, and then the bottom is explaining the quote. And when we're looking at the outline, it's pretty much taking this information and stacking up cookies, one on top of the other. So here's what I mean. I want to introduce my quote, and there's many ways to do that. One way is to write a question. Now, this quote has to do with pushing our recycling programs in the county higher than the national average, which is 34%. We want to go to zero waste by 2040, so we need to increase cycling wherever possible. So the question we could ask is, how is Orange County compared to the nation in recycling? And the answer to the question is going to be the quote and then the explanation itself. And the explanation is the bottom part of your cookie, so that the quotes are always surrounded by your words. And this is where you actually write something. I haven't really written anything yet. You've just been gathering the data and thinking about it. So there are many methods on how you can explain this quote. One way is to ask yourself how it advances the argument, or what kind of connection you're trying to make between the quote and the point. What does it help to prove? Why did you select it? You can tell a story. You can give multiple examples. You could give cause and effect. You can give compare and contrast. What do I mean by these? Well, with narration, I could give a story of the piles of glass bottles that will now be recycled and taken out of landfills. We're not going to put them in there anymore. We're going to reuse them. We're going to melt them down and recreate them. And I could tell a whole story about that using description on what that looks like. Another way to do it is just give lots of examples. Maybe lots of examples on what is being recycled. Cans, bottles, that sort of thing. If I do cause and effect, I might decide how recycling, what does that result into? The result would be less waste in landfills. And I would elaborate on that. How is this less waste in landfills? Well, we're recycling this, we're recycling that, and I'd probably combine examples with cause and effect. Another way to do it is compare and contrast. And I can compare it to other cities that are not recycling and what's happening to their waste. It's going to landfills. I could even look at it between the past and the present, that we are making progress and that we are moving toward the goal in 2040 of zero waste. So each of these has its own merit, and some are better than others depending on the quote, and you can combine a few, but this kind of helps you figure out, what the heck am I going to say? The quote already says everything I needed to say. What more can I say? And that's how this helps you analyze. And once you do that, you can move on to the next quote, and you introduce it, and you already have it. Now, there are other ways to do it besides questions. I could do the ethical appeal, and that has to do with morals and values, what's right and what's wrong. And in this case, the stakeholders are participating, businesses, industries, airports, many others. And so it's the right thing to do, that it's all hands on deck, everyone on board. And that's a great way to introduce a quote too, is through ethics. Another way is through the emotional appeal, and that has to do with using adjectives to describe how you might feel. And, not many people are against this. A lot of people are for this single-use plastics being banned. And maybe we think that that's a wonderful solution because it means less waste altogether. We're just not even going to use it. We're not going to have the plastic forks and the straws and the styrofoam food containers. And that's done through county contracts. And that's going to move the needle closer to zero waste. And we have to make that a law. Sometimes we have to make it a law. And maybe you use that adjective to introduce the quote. Okay, so I hope that seeing how the cookie method works will help you see how to build the entire paper around your quotes. So you have your topic sentence, you introduce the quote, you already have it documented, and notice that I fixed them all. It's either the title of the website or the author's last name and page number. Make sure that's all straight. And once I introduce my quote, I've got my quote, correctly cite it, and then I explain it. And then I introduce the next one. And then I explain it. Explain why this is important. How does this quote advance this point? And then once I'm done, I literally just take all these pieces. I don't keep them separate. I mush them all together into an actual paragraph. And the paper is basically writing itself, and I don't have to guess because the data is there to drive my information. Okay, obviously I would come up here and double space it. I mean, I don't want to hand in an essay single spaced, but it certainly can help you see how all these little parts of introducing and explaining builds the paragraph when you stack your cookies. Okay? The rest of this MLA handout that I'm looking at is all variations on how to do quotes. So take a look at how I've taken parts of this article, even sometimes skipping information, and seeing all the variations on how I cite the source in different ways, how I blend small parts, how I skip information, how I change a few words in a paraphrase, how I have a long quote if it's more than 4 lines. And so these are all variations. So as you're writing your paper, you might decide that you might want to change up how you introduce the quote or how you format the quote, that sort of thing. I hope all of this really helped you figure out that the outline is really your essay 50% done, and how the cookie method helps you build that essay from the ground up, from each outline's quote, each quote in the outline. If you need help, please ask me. You know there's no reason to struggle. I'm always here to help you. I really want you to use this method and see if it works for you. It might just help you write things way faster. Thanks for watching.